So this trading in intelligence is crucial to organizations like the NSA.
Absolutely incredibly important. There are, in fact, alliances that the National Security Agency has built up.
Okay.
So, I mean, it is incredibly important to the United States, and you can make the argument that for a country like Sweden, which doesn't have as large an intelligence community, it doesn't have spy satellites, it doesn't have a lot of the very expensive toys that the U.S. intelligence community has, you can make the argument that intelligence liaison is more important for Sweden than it is for the United States, simply because we have so many more partners and so many more sensors parked around the world.
What does Sweden get out of it? Could you give an example?
What Sweden gets out of it is, Sweden, for example, has very good intelligence in Europe, in the Middle East, wherever Sweden has expertise. We have been very pleasantly surprised by the quality of the intelligence. What Sweden gets out of it is those parts of the world where Sweden pays little attention or no attention to. I mean, it's a very big world, especially those countries, for example, in the Middle East. Iraq, for example. I would imagine that the vast majority of the intelligence information available to the Swedish intelligence community coming out of Iraq and Afghanistan probably originates with American sources.
What kind of traffic do you think that the FRA provides the NSA?
Now I think most of the material that we get from the FRA comes in the form of finished intelligence reports or analyses done by the Defense Intelligence staff. But the Swedish intelligence community writes up finished reports, very polished analyses of, say, events in the former Yugoslavia. I've seen a few of them, and they're very good. And they reference according to intercepted communications, in addition to diplomatic reporting. That is, I think, where most of the FRA material that comes to us, that's the way we see it.
How valuable is human intelligence as compared to other kinds of intelligence material?
I would be lying if I said that there are not incredible disagreements within the U.S. intelligence community about how much agents or human intelligence is worth. I think I've seen statistics which show that during the Cold War with the Soviet Union, 60%, sometimes up to 70% of the material that went to the President of the United States every day in his top secret briefing documents came from NSA. Human intelligence provided, in terms of reliable intelligence, rarely provided really good intelligence information. It's not that human intelligence is not important, it's just that Americans are incredibly impatient.
How important is cable access for these organizations?
2/3 of the world's communications traffic now travels underwater by fiber optic cable. If you're a signals intelligence agency, you must have access to this material. You can't just depend anymore on radio or what you can intercept coming off of satellite. During the 1970s, our best material was coming from Intelsat satellites. Now it's fiber optic cable. It's much harder to get at. The problem is that I can understand why many people would be really nervous about giving a signals intelligence agency free access to all of the communications that come in and out of a country via submarine cables. Most of Sweden's overseas communications come by cable. The FRA, to do its job, I'm sure made an argument to the parliament in Stockholm that we cannot do our job unless we have access to those cables. The problem is you don't know what use the FRA will make of the material. The other problem is that once you gain access to the cables, it is an incredibly expensive process. I hope the Swedish people are willing to spend a couple billion kroner on this program, because that is what it will cost. You have to buy massive supercomputers because every day you're intercepting 1.7 million emails, telephone calls, faxes, and the FRA doesn't have anywhere near the number of personnel needed to listen to every phone call and read every email that gets intercepted. So you need computers to do it. And this, as you know, is an incredibly expensive process. The computers will end up reading the material and deciding what, if any, of the materials that get intercepted contains intelligence information. The problem is we don't know what the analysts in Stockholm think is worthy intelligence information. You start getting into dangerous territory because now there are no limits on what the spies can listen to. The spies, basically determine from this point onwards, they determine what is valuable and what is not. Today it could be Afghanistan. Tomorrow it could be, the Danish football team. Who knows?
Does the cable access to the FRA is it important mostly because the FRA wants more information to trade?
The Swedish intelligence community could not survive without trading material. It has to have something to give to the United States, to France, to Germany, or other countries that it deals with in order to get information back. The intercepts that the FRA collects is just part of the trading material that is collected. What will end up happening, I guarantee, the FRA will end up collecting information that has absolutely no value to Sweden whatsoever. Albanian imports of shoes, Japanese, oil distribution information, but it will be of importance to somebody. Japanese oil imports will be the United States would be very interested in that kind of information. I don't know who would be interested in Albanian shoe imports, but the fact is that 80% of the information that will end up being collected by signals intelligence through the cable intercept program probably will be of minimal importance to Swedish national security. And therefore, its only value then becomes, well, who can we trade it to get information that we do want? So yes, the trading aspect of intercept, it's part of the game. Well, most of the trading takes place in Stockholm itself. The declassified papers that are available here in the United States about U.S.-Swedish intelligence relations in the 40s and 50s and 1960s, most of the trading took place in Stockholm with either U.S. military attaches or the CIA chief of station going to the Swedish Ministry of Defense and sitting down over a glass of alcohol and talking, or papers being exchanged, and it was a very polite, very, very civilized process. But that's usually for some reason people prefer to exchange this sort of intelligence in Stockholm, and the Swedish government has always seemed to prefer it that way.
Why is that?
Don't know.